Hi, today's video is about a Lima model train that I picked up. It is very similar to this, and this is a Hornby Intercity 125 model, a model of the Intercity 125 or what's called the British Rail Class 253, which was a high-speed diesel electric train that, well, the 125 signifies the speed it ran at, which was 125 miles per hour or 200 kilometers per hour. Could go a bit faster than that. Of course, I think they did push it to 150 miles an hour if I'm not mistaken, but in service these trains went at that speed. Now these are retired, and I've seen that some of them have gone to certain African and South American countries as well now. That's very nice. I mean, those countries are pretty lucky to be getting one of the landmark pieces of railway engineering, so to speak. I wish we got them in Sri Lanka, but then there would be some issues, mainly the track gauge, because we use 5-foot 6-inch track on Sri Lankan railways, whereas Britain I believe uses 4-foot 8-inch if I'm not mistaken. But I'm digressing. Let's get back to the model that I'm going to show you, which is not Intercity 125, it is this Intercity XPT. Do you notice any differences? I mean, I'm just going to put the power cars head to head. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? I mean, doesn't it look identical? So what is this Intercity XPT business? Well, let me tell you. If we have a look at the Wikipedia page, and I believe now Wikipedia is a properly established, recognized, peer-reviewed resource, so anyone who tells you that Wikipedia isn't worth following is probably not worth following themselves. I mean, because I've learned a lot more through Wikipedia than any other resource. Yes, I have actually donated to Wikipedia as well. That's how much I respect them. So what they say is, oh, here we go, Australian variant. So yes, the Intercity XPT, and this is the power car and the dummy power car of the set I've got, is an Australian variant. So it was meant for a country that's famous for being full of things that can kill you in the land or sea, kangaroos, Sydney Opera House, and quite a few other nice things as well. I mean, they've got some nice cars as well. I rather like Australia. I've been there a few times. Never really ridden on any one of these though. I have ridden on their domestic, suburban trains in Melbourne and Sydney, but nothing of these. So yeah, the XPT was made for Australia, and the Wikipedia article leads me to another article saying New South Wales XPT. Okay, short for Express Passenger Train. I think we could glean that from the XPT part. Okay, right, from 1982 to present. Oh, that's interesting. So that means that these are running on Australian railways then. If there are any Australian viewers of mine who have been in one recently or know of it or have seen it, please let me know, because I've been very interested. So reading a bit further tells us, okay, fine, same as the Intercity 125, the Paxman Valenta engine was down rated, okay, interesting, from 2250 to 2000 horsepower, and gearing lowered for a top speed of 100 miles per hour. Okay, so in Britain they were doing 125 miles per hour, which wasn't even their top speed. In Australia, they were limited to 100 miles an hour. Now, why was that? Oh, right, okay, here we go. Suspension modified to operate on inferior track. Cooling system modified for hotter and dusty Australian conditions. Well, that is true. I mean, living in Sri Lanka, I can tell you that, yes, we are a hot tropical country, but the Australian deserts can get much hotter than what we face here. So, it makes sense that you would want to modify your train to be more suited to the local conditions there. And another interesting thing is that on the Intercity 125 in Britain, they used, I believe, what were known as the Mark III coaches, I think. Let me just quickly verify that about the coaches. Okay, right, yes, they used Mark III coaches, whereas in Australia, they used a different kind of coach, which is, well, it looks a bit like a Mark III, doesn't it? But what it says on Wikipedia here is that the coaches were actually built by the Budd Railway Company. Interesting, very interesting. So the power cars were from the UK, the coaches were from somewhere else. Let's see, based on a Budd design, built to a loading gauge bigger than that of railways in Britain, but the bogies were built to a British rail design. So it's interesting there, and let me show you, when I put these two side to side, what I mean why they are so different. British Intercity 125, Australian Intercity XPT coach. Notice the length. You can see how there significantly is a length difference between the XPT and the Intercity 125. Probably for more passenger capacity, I suppose. I mean, this thing has got, yep, the BR one has got 7 large windows, the Australian one has got 8 large windows, so yeah, that means more seats. Interesting. Gets quite interesting, doesn't it? Now, even more interesting is how I got this model. Now, this model was actually purchased long years ago by my uncle, who is the person who got me into model trains. Because of him, I'm a model train nut. He gave me my first model train layout on a baseboard, that kind of thing, when I was maybe about 6 or 7 years old. Some of the components from that, i.e. the rolling stock, still I have, but the tracks and the baseboard are long gone. The tracks were steel tracks, so well, basically what I did is I took many of the rails and the sleepers, I dismantled them and I used them as decoration on my current model train layout to simulate abandoned track or remaining, old pieces of track work or whatever. But so yeah, he had this and he was downsizing his collection, so I got this off him, and well, I bought it from him for a very reasonable price, given that these are actually quite rare. I mean, if you just try to do a Google search, Lima Intercity XPT, you're not going to find a lot of them. Vintage Lima HO scale XPT Intercity powered, okay, there's a listing there. Hattons has sold one of these at some point, okay. And yeah, just looking at the prices on these, what I got this for was pretty reasonable given its relative rarity. So what we are going to do next is take a closer look at the locomotive and the carriages. I've got a power car, a dummy power car, and these are heavy, let me tell you. Just to give you an idea, a very unscientific idea, the dummy power car of the XPT is roughly similar in weight to the power car of my Hornby Intercity 125. So I guess, well, yeah, I know why that is. They put additional weighting inside to give these better riding characteristics, and it rides really smoothly. That's not the only reason why this thing rides really smoothly. I'll be telling you about that in greater detail when we have a look at it under my ring light on my white table surface, which I do my usual model car reviews and stuff on, because it's worth knowing the differences between these two, even though externally they look quite similar. So without further ado, let's get right into a closer look at the Lima Intercity XPT. Okay, let's have a closer look at these beautiful pieces of rolling stock. First up, you can see the XPT exquisite color scheme there. Got a lot of detail. You can see when you look at the roof detailing and things, it's certainly more well defined than on the Hornby one, although I guess you could also say that because the Hornby one has a black roof, it doesn't stand out as much. You can see the differences on top of the roof of the two models as well as the similarities. If you look at them head on, you can also see, well, there's minor differences but nothing too radical there. You can see the horn grille, for example, looks a lot more defined on the XPT than on the Hornby 125. Now my one has a driver. I've added a driver to that, and my one also has directional lighting, but otherwise identical. I mean, let's look at the undercarriage of both. Okay, you can see Lima, Italy, and Hornby made in Great Britain, and you can see the differences in bogie design. Like, for example, getting at the bogies to clean them is easier on the Hornby than on the Lima, because you've got this little plastic base keeper plate piece that must be popped off, and I'm so scared to do that given the age of this model and the fact that it isn't always, the plastic might be brittle. So I've cleaned things as best as I could without messing with that too much. Now, another thing that's easy on the Hornby one is to pop the power bogie off to, do repairs to it. I'm just going to do that right now and show you. I just need to find a tool or something that I can use to prise it off. Excuse the little interruption here. Oh, there we go. Found my little toolkit. Let's get something suitable out to do this job with. Yeah, I reckon that tip should do. Yep. So okay, just put a flatbed screwdriver there, pop it out, and here we go. So this is a Hornby ring-field motor unit on the Hornby Intercity 125. You can see you've got the motor, you've got a first stage of gearing there, second stage and third stage, and that results in a fairly sprightly turn of speed, whereas on the Lima one, which I can't really remove the bogie off easily. I have to remove the body shell of it, but that's okay. That's perfectly alright, because then I can show you the innards of the locomotive, whereas you've probably seen the innards of a Hornby 125 on my channel, particularly when I did the lighting upgrade for it some time ago. I did it on the Virgin liveried one of mine, because I had already done it on the blue and yellow liveried one that I just showed you here to compare the two models. So let's just get this chassis off. It's a little fiddly to come off. Unscrew that screw a little more, and yep, these are quite fiddly chassis to get off sometimes, because you've got to really tease it off like that. And you can see that this screw still hasn't come off. So yeah, I would say the Hornby one is much easier to get into than the Lima one, but you can see we've got a hefty weight there, and this is the power pickup. You can see that on the Lima one, sorry for bumping the camera, I seem to eternally do that, you have a little pin there which comes up and pokes through the chassis, and then you have to slide this thing on there. That pin came out as I was taking the model apart, so I'm going to have to put that pin back again. I also need to figure out, alright, that goes at the front. These two little things go at the front, so that's fine. Now if you look at the motor here, I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. We've got more stages of gearing there. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. So this has got 4 stages of gearing as opposed to 3 stages of gearing on the Hornby one, which means that it's a much smoother runner and it can hold slower speeds without stalling, which is very nice. Well, I guess that's a bit realistic, isn't it? I mean, I did mention in the start about how the power units were actually derated for use in Australia. So I guess it also makes sense for the model as well to be, well, not derated, but re-geared, if you will. I think that was one of the things they mentioned as well about the gearing for the lower top speed. So yeah, realism in a way you don't really expect it. Just gonna put the body back on. To be honest, removing the body of this is not my favorite thing in the world, because you saw how fiddly it is. And also I should point out another little fact, that cleaning the wheels on this, because of the gearing factor of the motor, is a little tougher than on the Hornby. Like for example, when I want to clean these wheels, I can just very gently move the axle by spinning the wheel on the opposite side and get at the whole wheel. But here, if I try to do that, it's a lot harder because there's more gearing. So I'm scared that I might break something. So once again, yeah, cleaning the wheels on the XPT is a little more involving than cleaning the wheels on the Hornby 125. So let's just put that aside, and let me put my screwdriver away as well, because I'm not going to be opening anything else up. Nothing else needs opening up. So next up, let's look at, well, the dummy power car is pretty identical to the power car. The inside is pretty much the same, only thing is you don't have a motor unit here, of course. But I should tell you something else that's interesting. Look at that coupler. It's a special custom kind of coupler for the XPT. So what that means is you have to couple the train in one direction, because if you look at this coach, you have a hoop sort of thing there and a pin at the other end. So they have to always be coupled like that, hoop to pin. So you have to couple the train in one way, which means that the same coach is always coupled the same way to the power unit or to the dummy power unit. It also means that, well, I can run it as with just one coach, dummy power unit, coach power unit like that if I like, because it's all the coaches have a pin at one end, a hoop on the other. But if I want to do the full set, then I have to couple it like that, in that direction only. I can't just flip the coach around like that. Now interestingly, this coach has a blue interior and this coach has an orange interior. Now I'm not sure what denotes what. I'm guessing one is first class and one is second class, but having a closer look inside, I mean the seating appears to be similar. No. The orange is first class because it has got 2-1 seating, so 3 seats per row, whereas the blue is second class because you've got I don't know if you can see that. You've got 2-2 seating. So yeah, second class is blue, first class is orange. And given that this is the dummy power unit and this is the power unit, I'm guessing that, well, actually I think I can couple them either way. I'm not sure how it ran in Australia, so how it should be coupled, your guess is as good as mine. And anyway, I do take liberties with my model trains. So next up, we're going to see how this beautiful rake of Intercity XPT coaches and power unit and dummy power unit looks on my tracks. Stay tuned. So here is the XPT all set up on my tracks. You'll notice that video is a little smoother now. Well, that's because I've got myself a stabilizer, and you can also see a Intercity 125 stabled on the inner line, which is going to be participating in a little race later on. First of all, let's have the XPT setting off. Turning the controller up, there we go. We are going at a bit of a slow speed now, little bit of a faster clip. There it goes. I've slowed it again. Now let's bring it a little faster and see how it goes. Let's stop it right there and let's reverse it so that we can see it coming out of the tunnel. So we are just going to have a look at it coming out of the tunnel here. Here comes the XPT. Isn't that a very sleek sight to behold? Going to bring it back again just so that at full speed, let's see how it goes. Most interesting, most interesting. Now we are going to bring it back and glide it to a stop here. Once again, you can see it's quite a long train. I'm just going to pull it up to there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my 125, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the two trains about roughly there. Come on, 125. It's a little bit iffy because it's on a point. I'm just going to manually help it along. Okay, and now you can see here I've got the coaches parked roughly at the same point, the midpoint. And if we go here, you can see the extra length of the XPT coach compared with the 125 coach, which culminates in a longer overall train. We can see the same thing again at this end, because like I showed you, the XPT coaches are longer than the 125 coaches. So now what we are going to do is let's move the 125 as well a little forward. And now what we are going to do is, well, let's have a race. I'm going to set them both to 100% and flick the switchers at the same time. There they go. Well, the 125 got a bit of a head start, but the XPT is already overhauling it. So it's interesting because I need to check my 125. It shouldn't be going at this speed at 100% on the throttle. Here comes the XPT once again. I'm going to slow it down a bit, in fact. Initially my other 125, the Swallow livery one, could overhaul the XPT. Not sure why this one's a little sluggish today. Perhaps it needs a service. But you might have noticed the coach lighting inside this one. That's because it's got in-wheel pickups for that particular coach, and I suspect that could also be a reason why things are not going as smoothly as I expect them to for the 125, because, well, the in-wheel pickups on this coach do cause some resistance, and you may have noticed as I turn the controller down, the lighting gradually dimmed down. That's because there are capacitors inside here which help smooth out, little hiccups in power pickup. Without the capacitors, the lighting was really flickery. Now you can see when the coach runs, it's nice and smooth. And this is what I plan to do for the XPT coach as well. But I might not use in-coach pickups. I might take a feed from the power car or the dummy power car. So without further ado, let's have the XPT off again and let's follow it around my layout. As you can see, it's a very, very nice train set. Really striking color. And I'm really pleased that I got it. Looking forward to upgrading it as well. But on the other hand, I won't deny I'm a little apprehensive about trying to upgrade something like this, given its relative rarity and that kind of thing. So who knows, I might, well, I think it's a good challenge. Try to upgrade as much as possible without doing any lasting damage, like having to drill bodies or make holes anywhere for passing wires or whatever. It's a very interesting challenge. So yeah, That is my Lima Intercity XPT, and as you can see, it is a magnificent model. We've got the first class coach there, we've got the second class coach there, and the dummy power car. And in the future I might check for more coaches on eBay. So there you are. You can see that this Intercity XPT is a very pleasing runner for the reasons that I told you. More specifically, it's rather more realistically geared drivetrain system. Now of course, well, the lighting upgrade is something I have to do, isn't it? And definitely I shall be getting down to it in future. It's content for a video there as well for the motor car and the dummy power car. Dummy power car is going to be a little more interesting because I've discovered that I need to do a little bit of, well, connecting or rather connection or pickup work for the bogies. Unlike a hornby dummy power car, which already comes with the requisite connection points to light up the directional headlamps and tail lamps. And of course, these lovely coaches, I mean, I'm really looking forward to lighting them as well. I mean, I've already thought about how I'm going to do it with a light strip, and I'll definitely have to have discrete wires running between each coach. That's the best way to do it, because what I've discovered is when you start adding more and more wheel pickups to a piece of rolling stock, that increases the rolling resistance and makes things harder for the locomotive to pull. I mean, I've done it to one of my Intercity 125 coaches, and unless you get the adjustment of the pickups absolutely right, you will see that the coach is noticeably harder to roll down the track. So there you are, the Lima Intercity XPT model. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, do drop me a like, give me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I've got a lot more videos coming. Thanks for watching and have a great day.